In today's gospel, we see Jesus blessing bread. A large crowd of Galileans, surprised by the wonders of Jesus' healing, have followed him to the hillside and have gathered in a large crowd. And Jesus recognizes that they're hungry, and so he inquires with his disciples as how best to feed them. One of his disciples mentions that there's a little boy who has 2 fish and 5 barley loaves. And as you heard, Jesus takes the bread and the fish, gives thanks to the Father, proceeds to have the disciples distribute this food that becomes abundantly nourishing to the crowd. So much so that there are fragments left over, 12 baskets full. So with Jesus as the resource, this bread of the poor, which is what the poor ate, barley was the wheat of the poor, there is enough to satisfy the hunger of all these people. Now this beautiful story says something very simple but profound, and here it is. In the hands of Jesus, shortage always becomes an abundance. Deficiency always becomes plenty. Nothing is lost of what is given to Jesus. Nothing. The other interesting part about this story is that these people are so moved by the power that he just manifested that they first acknowledge that he is truly the prophet sent by God. But Jesus knows that they want to make him king because of this event. And he does what he always does when that is presented to him. He heads to the hills. He's not going to be tempted to exercise that kind of authority. There are some hungers that Jesus refuses to satisfy. And one of those hungers is the hunger to dominate over other people. He is bread that is offered. He is the lordship of care that is a sign of God's ultimate reign, which all will be fed. No one will be excluded. His bread is offered, and he rejects this lordship of dominion, this destructive power which he sees all around him. Perhaps Jesus believes that this type of power over other people is precisely what keeps from feeding the hungry, is a power that steals from the community's resources to secure its superiority. I think we can identify with this in our world today. I mean, if you look at the amount of money that we are putting into our defense program, you will realize that that spending is being related to other issues, and not the least among them is feeding the hungry and the poor. President Eisenhower, if you remember him, once said this very profound statement: every gun that is made, every warship launched, every rocket fired signifies, in the final sense, a theft from those who are hungry and are not fed, from those who are cold and are not clothed. The power that dominates with force steals from the hunger that is most apparent in our world. It's the hunger to be fed. It's the hunger to be loved. It's the hunger to be accepted and welcomed rather than rejected and disregarded. Jesus insists that the power he gives to us is a power that's meant to serve the hungers of the heart. It's one that satisfies, interestingly enough, both the giver and the receiver. Only when we begin to believe in that power and to share what little we have will we discover how much we have left over. And that truth can only be discovered by doing it. By doing it.